Trump tastes the sweetness of appeasing China, makes another concession. In the US-China joint statement on mutual tariff reductions, the lack of clarity on whether the US would lower its 120% tariff on small packages from China sparked speculation. Less than a day later, the White House issued an executive order announcing a significant reduction in tariffs on small packages sent to the US from Hong Kong and mainland China, cutting the rate from 120% to 54%. The head of a cross-border e-commerce consulting firm said the 54% tariff remains very high, adding that due to the additional tariffs, small packages often experience delays at the border. People buy clothes on Shein but are told they will only arrive in a month. Who will still buy them? The report mentioned. However, to courier experts told Reuters on condition of anonymity, fearing retaliation, that the actual tax rate for small Chinese packages has now defaulted to 30%, matching the current US tariff rate on Chinese goods. In 2024, small packages accounted for 4.4% of China's exports to the US, not a huge proportion, but not insignificant either. Unlike bulk commodities, price hikes for these small packages are very tangible and strongly felt by ordinary American consumers. It is safe to say that this loose and not reflected in the joint statement was by no means an accidental oversight by the Trump administration, but a deliberate omission. China certainly raised the issue during negotiations, but as soon as it became clear that China was unwilling to concede further and domestic criticism grew, the White House hastily announced the tariff cut to resolve the deliberately left loose end. Background on the US small package tax exemption policy. In the 1930s, the US Congress established exemptions for small packages to reduce the hassle of American tourists bringing back souvenirs from abroad. In 2016, Congress raised the tax-free minimum threshold from $200 to $800. Americans have taken a keen interest in shopping on Pinduoduo International and Shein. Data shows that in recent years, the number of packages entering the US under the small package exemption has surged from about 140 million a decade ago to over 1 billion last year. A previous US congressional report showed that China's small package exports would soar from $5.3 billion in 2018 to $66 billion in 2023. Nomura Securities estimates that thanks to the small package exemption, China exported $240 billion worth of direct-to-consumer goods globally last year, accounting for 7% of overseas sales. However, after Trump took office in January this year, his global trade war has deeply affected Americans reliant on relatively cheap Chinese products. He previously announced a 145% tariff on imports from China, with the small package exemption set to expire on May 2nd. On April 25th, CNN and Bloomberg noted that Pinduoduo International and Shein raised prices on large quantities of goods, from lawn chairs to swimsuits, before the new tariffs took effect. Shein, likely a platform or brand, almost entirely increased prices across all product categories, with some items doubling or more. Kitchen paper towels saw the largest price increase, up 377%. This means even cheap products on Pinduoduo International and Shein are no longer affordable for American consumers. Prior to this, frequent users of Pinduoduo International and Shein said they had increasingly turned to these websites in recent years because American-made products were no longer affordable. Data shows that about 48% of small packages are sent to the poorest regions in the US, compared to only 22% to the wealthiest areas. Reuters said Trump's global trade war has torn up the script that has governed international trade for decades, shaken financial markets, and sparked concerns about a US economic recession. At the same time, young Americans are growing increasingly dissatisfied with the Trump administration. A Bloomberg report on May 3rd said Trump's insistence on launching a trade war against China, targeting Chinese e-commerce platforms like Shein and Pinduoduo International, as well as TikTok, could disrupt the lives of young Americans accustomed to fast fashion and TikTok, further impacting these newly economically independent consumers already struggling with inflation. "I'm furious, can't afford anything, and don't know what to do," many young people complained, blaming the tariff policies for messing up their lives. Dissatisfaction has also emerged within the Republican Party. Reports say Trump's heavy taxation could affect the party's performance in next year's congressional midterm elections. The reduction from 120% to 30% can be seen as aligning with the negotiations, but a complete return to the previous zero-tariff model is highly unlikely, at least within Trump's remaining 4 years in office. The logic is simple. While the US talks about imposing tariffs on small packages, whether it can actually enforce them is another matter. To grasp this issue, just keep these key figures in mind. In 2024, the US Customs had approximately 68,000 employees, but only 2,500 personnel were tasked with customs clearance and tariff collection. The US has 327 ports of entry, through which 1.36 billion small packages flowed into the country in 2024. From an ordinary consumer's perspective, the small package tariff saga is far from over. Trump's attempt to make Americans pay $10 offline for a $2 online item is doomed to fail. Since early April, US orders have rebounded from a standstill, with many American buyers willing to accept price hikes to import Chinese goods. In Shenzhen, a Dutch engineer established a shared office in Huaqiangbei to serve overseas clients. He observed that foot traffic and vehicle flow on Huaqiangbei's streets have shown no sign of decline this month. Business continues as usual, and innovation persists. Wang Weigu, founder of Shenzhen Huaqiangbei Manufacturing, noted that engineers from Brazil, the US, and an Australian team used to spend nearly $150 on product manufacturing costs elsewhere. With the help of a local engineer in Huaqiangbei, they reduced the cost to $15 ***. Even if you produce in China and sell to Australia or other countries, it's still much cheaper regardless of import taxes, Wang told reporters. The US tariff hikes can't stop anyone from developing new products. As long as you keep launching new products and sell enough, you'll make good profits. A telecommunications equipment seller added, at first, clients shopped around for prices, but they quickly found that similar quality products couldn't be found in other countries. In Huaqiangbei, traditional electronics like smart glasses, Bluetooth headphones, and hair dryers are continuously upgraded, while emerging products such as AI keyboards, AI mice, and AI guitars keep emerging. China's newly launched tax refund upon purchase policy has also attracted large numbers of overseas tourists. During the May Day holiday, Huaqiang Electronic World saw a daily average of over 64,000 visitors, a year-on-year increase of nearly 40%. Beyond Huaqiangbei, reporters recently visited the biannual Canton Fair and found that many US orders have returned. At the fair, a stationery company's mobile phone translator device drew significant attention from overseas buyers. Qiu Ziming, chairman of Bifa Group, said, on the first day of the Canton Fair exhibition, we received over 100 batches of visitors. Clients from over 200 countries expressed interest in becoming our local brand agents, and we sold tens of thousands of dollars worth of prototypes in our county. Kai's mood has been like a roller coaster this month. Currently, his company has over $60 million in orders being executed, $17.5 million in production, inventory, and transportation, with orders for the US market accounting for over 30% of the business. When the US announced reciprocal tariff policies, all existing US orders came to a halt. However, 2 weeks after the US market shut down, on April 26th, Qiu received a shipping request from a US retail company. The other party proposed a tariff-sharing plan and requested renegotiation, but Qiu made it clear that the price would remain unchanged and his company would not bear the tariffs. The other party has now accepted this. The confidence to refuse price negotiations stems from the company's relentless focus on technology. Qiu and his team spent 10 years reducing the cost of a pen by 15%, while improving writing smoothness and quick-drying performance by 30% compared to international competitors. Today, in their automated production line in Ningbo's smart workshop, the daily capacity reaches 5 million pens, overseen by just one engineer. In addition to the small package tariff issue, the recent US-China negotiations left several loose ends, including, but not limited to the following: the so-called 20% tariff, US restrictions on semiconductor exports to China, reviews of Chinese electronics supply chains, China's rare earth export controls, and the two sides' plans after the 90-day tariff pause expires. It can be said that there is still significant room for competition between China and the US, with many issues remaining to be resolved. According to US Treasury Secretary Bessent, the two countries will soon hold a new round of negotiations in the coming weeks, and top-level Chinese and US officials may also speak this weekend. Regardless, one thing is certain: the agreement reached by China and the US this time demonstrates the enormous value of resistance to the rest of the world. Facts have proven that blindly enduring humiliation only encourages Trump to push for more concessions. When the economic consequences of resistance begin to show, such as pressure on US Treasury bonds, Trump will retreat. Since he does retreat, it shows that resistance is effective. Other countries can absolutely pressure the US according to their own circumstances. That's all for today's program. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your actions mean a great deal to me. See you next time.